I hope you will enjoy hearing about my journey of how I found fulfillment through a national laboratory career, and how believing in myself, coupled with the strong role models and mentors I've had throughout my career, were key to my success in operations. So I'm going to start kind of at the beginning, which I thought would be a little bit of baseline of about me in my early years and how it shaped me into the woman and leader I have become. So about 4 years ago, I'm about 4 years old. I wish I was 4 years ago, but this is me at 4 years old, standing out in front of our flat in San Francisco. And I selected this photo as it truly depicts the positive energy I have tried to embrace throughout my adult life and career. It is also an example of feeling like you can conquer the world, which for me is all about believing in myself and of having strong role models and mentors throughout my life. So going back to my childhood, my first role models were my parents, which is maybe the same for many of you. I grew up in a really modest home with blue-collar parents who worked very hard, especially my father. This instilled in me a really strong work ethic, which I hold true today. When I was about 15, my parents divorced. There was just a lot going on at that time. And for the next several years, I helped my mom raise my sister, who was 8, my brother, who was 6, and my 2 aunts' young children, who were ages 2 and 6 months. Unfortunately, my aunt had suffered a very severe stroke at the time and was not able to care for her children. This was a really big load for anyone, let alone a 15-year-old. And I'll be honest, I felt like I was missing out on my teenage years. I did not have the ability to, hang out with my friends after school, and I had a limited amount of time. I was able to join friends for high school events, football games, and dances. And after doing this for several years, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I just didn't see a way out other than to move out and be on my own. However, this required that I get a job and put my college plans on hold. And this was super unfortunate, as I was really excelling in high school. I had a very high GPA, and I already had big plans for college and had already had conversations with counselors and whatnot. In hindsight, this was a mistake. But at the time, I had the mindset of a teenager who figured she knew it all, and that she figured she knew better than her parents. One saving grace, I guess, was that at least I did take several vocational courses and spent weekends earning certificates, which helped me land a legal assistant job at the age of 17, which was something I needed, something with a little bit of a income, more than I could get from a fast food restaurant, for example. So I did that for about 3 years, and then I changed jobs and started working for the law offices of Tamsin and Bruck. And this was a pivotal moment in my life, and the start of what I consider the beginning of my career and my informal education. Steve Tamsin was an amazing mentor who took me in under his wing and educated me on everything it takes to manage a small business. He refined my skills as a legal secretary. He schooled me in financial management and bookkeeping, fostered my development as a paralegal, had me assume the role as a tenant manager. At the time, we were in a high-rise building and had leased out an entire floor, which was far more office space than we needed for our small firm. So I was responsible for marketing and finding subtenants. And eventually I evolved to the position of office manager. It was, I felt like I was a bit of like a project for Stephen, to be honest. And he was super proud and really happy to make sure I had a broad set of skills that would make me as marketable as possible for my future development. And which I loved, and I thought, well, everything you're doing is to enhance the business, because I'm not going to go anywhere. I love this place. But we all know that didn't happen, right? So I stayed with Tamsin and Bruck for 10 years, and this was, in essence, my formal education. I don't recommend going this route. While I feel I was successful, it was not an easy route, and I missed out on an incredibly important aspect of acquiring a formal education, and so many wonderful social aspects associated with the college experience. So before I step off this slide, this is Steve Tamsin, Michael Bruck, and myself in the middle at the annual 4th of July barbecue at Stephen's house, which was just so much fun. And it truly was an extended family, and just made me immediately feel welcome and embraced into the Tamsin and Bruck life. I include this photo here. This is a picture of me at work at Tamsin and Brook, and it has nothing to do with my career. But if anyone knows me personally, you know that on my best day, I stand 5'1". And I always thought this picture made me look tall. So after being in the legal field for about 13 years, honestly, I just was no longer fulfilled by the work I was supporting. Working in the personal injury field, you do come across some clients that are just looking for a payout. And after a while, it takes its toll, or at least it did for me. And with the final straw being one client limping in on one leg and then limping out on the other, literally. I was finding that I was becoming bitter. And going to work was becoming a chore as opposed to something I was eager and excited to do. And I had to find something that would make me bring back joy into my everyday work life. So after searching, I heard that Livermore Lab was hiring, and the mission of the lab really resonated with me. That made me feel good that I could be supporting researchers who are making a difference through world-class science and technology. And, not to mention, it was also I was living in Livermore at that time, and this offered a job that was just a mile from my home, and with the added advantage of being close enough to my 2 school-day children so that I could participate in field trips, Boy Scout, soccer, baseball, etc., you name it. It was super important to me and a priority that I be a present parent, given that I was working full-time. I only had so much time left in my day to actually fulfill those that part of my life. However, this was a really big change for me. I was giving up a 13-plus-year career where I had advanced to the position of operations manager to take a job as an administrative assistant. This introduced both a deep pay cut and many steps back in my job level. However, I am a firm believer that sometimes you must take a few steps back. Let's call it a slight detour of sorts to get where you want to be. Well, I'm not usually a big risk taker. I also knew that I needed to do something different. And again, I believed in myself, and I was confident that this was only a temporary setback. And with dedication, a positive attitude, and ambition, I would again advance my career. This was especially supported by knowing that the lab was such a large institution with so much growth opportunity to offer its employees. So before I step off this slide, this is a photo of me in the corner here with my computing sciences colleagues at Livermore Lab. And I think this was in 1992. So my first job at Livermore was supporting the Energy Sciences Network, ESNet, which was eventually moved to Berkeley Lab, and I'll speak more to that in a moment. So back in the late 80s, early 90s, Livermore had piloted this program called ASSET, and that's Administrative Support Services Education and Training Program. And this was it offered an opportunity to pull in just a select few of individuals. I think our team was either 6 or 8. It's been a while now, 30 years almost, where they took this team in, and we were educated on everything having to do with the laboratory from an administrative perspective, before you actually went to your permanent position. And as you might imagine, I don't know, for me, I felt like coming into a national lab environment was like learning a foreign language. It was so different. You had so many policies and procedures, new hardware and software, not to mention the heavily regulated environment that comes from working with the federal government, especially when working for a weapons lab. So in that 6-week period, they schooled us on policies and procedures, how to do travel, how to get people reimbursed, how to put together a request for even a conference event, which seemed completely new to all of us. Learning all the systems that the lab used, so that when you did end up at your position, you were ready to support them effectively and efficiently as best as possible without having to spin and try and figure out how to do things. So I actually loved the program. I thought I'd always hoped that I could launch such a program at Berkeley Lab, maybe starting with our own area. But while I've not done so, it's still on my LBL wish list of things to do. But don't know that I'll get there, but I will try to maybe chip away at laying the groundwork for such a program before I retire. Anyway, I was like a sponge. I loved everything the lab was about. I loved the technology. And I have to, this is kind of funny, I love the Macintosh. So when I was working at Hampshire Brook, I was working on a Unix platform using the VI text editor, which for anyone who's familiar with that, it's kind of typing blindly, right? Every little line has a code, and you have no idea what your product looks like until you either print it or go into display mode. So you know, it's a lot of back and forth to make sure you're getting the look you want on every pleating, every letter, every whatever you're doing. Truth be told, I had no idea what a mouse was until I came to Livermore Lab and started working with a Macintosh. And needless to say, I immediately fell in love with the Mac. And I just had to step back and ask myself, good Lord, who knew word processing could be so much easier? Another interesting tidbit was that in my mind, I would only sit in ESNet for until a position opened up in the lab's legal department. I figured, okay, I'm just gonna get my foot in the door, take this job. This is just a temporary setback, Lisa. Just do this until something opens up in the legal department, and then you can transfer that 13 years of knowledge and experience into that group and continue working where you're comfortable. Well, that frankly, that never happened because I really enjoyed learning as much as possible about the network and the telecommunications field. ESNet was embarking on some pretty cool, actually bleeding edge technology in developing and launching the wide area network for the Department of Energy and all its national labs. This was so cool, and it was really big stuff. And honestly, I was having way too much fun to give that up. So I'm going to segue a little bit. So throughout the story, you're going to hear me refer to mentors and role models. I was again fortunate to work closely with a manager, Jim Layton, who was willing to allow me to spread my wings and take on stretch assignments. Under his leadership and direction, I was able to expand my portfolio to include budget management and subcontract management from cradle to grave while I was at the Livermore Lab. After 4 years at Livermore, DOE made the decision to move the NERSC and ESNet programs to Berkeley Lab. And at that time, I was presented with an offer to move to Berkeley with a promotion. And I immediately jumped at the chance to continue my career with ESNet and follow my manager onto a new adventure with new possibilities. I was actually the second person to sign after my boss did, Jim Layton, to join the Berkeley Lab from the NERSC ESNet group. So in 95 is when DOE made this decision to move ESNet to Berkeley. And it was unfortunately at the same time as the big .com boom in the Silicon Valley and elsewhere. As a result, many, if not all, the ESNet staff were receiving very attractive offers to go to work for many of our industry partners, such as Cisco Systems, Microsoft, Juniper, Sun, AT&T, etc. It was nearly impossible to compete with those very attractive salary offers, which included some really enticing stock options. So together with Jim Layton, we had to get creative and think outside the box. Thus, the concept of erecting a Berkeley Lab satellite office in the Livermore Valley was born. And you'll see that here. This is the Kitty Hawk Telework Center in Livermore. And this is us using some technology called some video conferencing technology. I think it was a VTEL or Pitel system. So anyway, I was then tasked with actually finding this space, which I spent a few months doing, and I had to find a location that would not only accommodate our people, but accommodate all this equipment as well, with the idea that this would be a hybrid mode. So who knew that back in '96 would be so applicable to what's going on today, right? So the concept was that we wouldn't always all be here, it'd be a shared thing. We'd be here part-time, and then we would be on the main Berkeley work site, main work on the Hill half the time. To enhance the pitch to DOE, we also mentioned that the location would house all of our backup network servers and equipment in the event of a crisis or a natural disaster, like an earthquake, which is not too far-fetched in the Berkeley Hills. And I was successful at securing the Kitty Hawk. In addition to the satellite office, we were successful at leasing a van pool service that ran from Kitty Hawk to Berkeley 5 days a week to transport our staff that were scheduled to be at the main site. And this service was covered for the first year by the laboratory. However, it proved to be so successful that the cost of the van pool was then picked up by the employees after the first year, and we expanded it to share that we had this service to other Berkeley Lab employees that may also have been in the Livermore Valley. We got a few more people to join the van pool. With these two really attractive options added to the retention packages, we were able to retain the majority of our team. So not long after the laboratory actually produced a video showcasing the Telework Center and all the various tools we were using to help us keep connected. Many of you may have seen this recently highlighted as part of the April 2nd Berkeley Lab Elements newsletter, and again on April 9th as part of the 90th anniversary highlights. So as a result of my contributions and leadership in this effort, I was recognized and presented with the Director's Outstanding Performance Award that year, which I'm super proud of. I should also mention that during this transition of moving our center from Livermore to Berkeley, I was burning the candle at both ends, trying to do my best to manage as a single parent of two young boys. The flexibility afforded to me by the lab and this new center was instrumental in helping me maintain my sanity and remain productive at work and be available to my boys. I'm incredibly grateful to lab for helping me through some very challenging years. I spent about 11 years supporting this team of researchers and successfully progressed my career to project manager. From there, I spent a few years in the OCFO and then landed my next amazing job supporting the Earth Sciences Division, which has now evolved to the Earth and Environmental Sciences area. So I landed this role in ESD in 2005 under the leadership of Bo Bodvarsson. Many of you on this call may not know Bo, but he sadly passed away in 2006, so I was really only had the pleasure of working with him for just shy of 1 year. However, in that very short period of time, I was immediately embraced and welcomed into the Earth Sciences family, which is something really important to me. I love feeling like we all are treat each other with such respect and can talk to one another at all levels of the organization. My path to join the ESD is actually an interesting story. At the suggestion of my then supervisor in the OCFO, who I thank immensely for the encouragement, I applied for the role as the ESD business manager. While I was not selected for that position, I did leave a very positive, lasting impression on the interview panel. And at the conclusion of the interview of the search, the chair of the committee called me and expressed how impressed the director, Bo, and the other members of the committee were with my interview, and truly wish they had two positions, but alas, they did not, and hoped that I would keep their division in mind should something open up in the future. And not long after, there was such an opportunity, and I applied and I was selected to lead the administration team. While this position was a lateral move, I could see so much opportunity availing itself in this role that I again told myself that with determination, a positive attitude, and dedication, I would find a way to advance my career. And much of what I knew was through the interview process, because they shared so much about the great things that Earth Sciences was doing and the vision they had for the future. I shared the story with you because I think it's important to know a couple things. One is I just am so proud of my supervisor at the time for having the letting me know that there was this opportunity outside of her own area, right? Because she would be losing me. I had colleagues actually come to me and say, gosh, doesn't that make you feel kind of crummy, like she was trying to just push you out and get rid of you? To the contrary, she thought the world of me. She had given me an outstanding performance that year. But at that time, and even in the near future, she could see that she just simply did not have anywhere for me to grow. And she just thought that this position that she suggested would really let me tap into all of my capabilities and my expertise and my experience. So I applaud her for doing that for me. And so the other thing is, it's important to note that while I was not selected for the first position that I applied for, it absolutely was the pathway to a future opportunity that I landed. So I encourage all of you that if there's something you want out there, and you even have the slightest idea that, it's probably a long shot, maybe, I encourage you to apply for it. You're losing nothing, even if you don't get that position. I mean, what a great opportunity to get out there and share everything about yourself, all your special talents, your vision, your expertise, your skills and capability to people you probably don't know that may be, outside of even the laboratory or certainly outside the area. So I think it's a great opportunity to advertise yourself, even if you don't get that position. When I joined ESD, we had an operations team of 14, including 3 matrix personnel. And at that time I was the lead for administration. And our annual budget for ESD was roughly 32 million. In 2009, we started to see growth at our programs, about 5 million expected for 2009 with an additional 7 to 10 anticipated in 2010. This opened the door for me to introduce a strategy to ESD senior management to cover the anticipated support needed to address our escalating budget. And this was the concept of research administration teams to support the growing portfolio of DOE projects and associated ESD program leads. This model provided our program leads with a single research administrator to serve as their executives for coordinating the administrative details associated with DOE proposal calls and associated post-award project management activities. These individuals served as the one-stop shop conduit for our resource analysts for acquiring the information they needed to do their job successfully. This is an important nuance because, as you might imagine, researchers are super busy and they have very, very busy travel schedules. And this is especially so within ESD, where we had a very heavy field component associated with our research and still do today. The original model started with 3 research administrators, and I'm proud to share that that this team has now grown to 14 program ops analysts today, as shown on this org chart on the right. In 2008, DOE BES launched a highly competitive, high reward call for EFRCs, and those are Energy Frontier Research Centers. These centers major collaborative research efforts to accelerate high risk, high reward fundamental research that would provide a strong scientific basis for transformative energy technologies for the future. And Don DePaulo was selected to lead one of the handful of proposals that came out of LBL. And I saw this as an opportunity to join in and help take the lead for coordinating the proposal development, along with serving as the POC for creating the comprehensive management and coordination plans that would accompany the proposal. This is kind of interesting because this was very different than any proposal we had ever developed within ESD that I was aware of anyway, with a very, I want to call it, it was a highly managed and a highly visible program with a lot more reporting than we were used to in a DOE setting. This took an immense amount of teamwork and of reaching out to my colleagues around the lab who had successfully developed hub proposals or other large team proposals. I'm really proud to share that we were successfully selected for an award, and as a result, I was selected to serve as the Center for Nanoscale Control of Geologic CO2, which we call NCGC. I was selected to serve as their program business manager. And that year I was acknowledged with an outstanding performance award by the lab director for my contributions towards that successful reward. In later years, I was invited by the directorate to present my process for these proposals to lab leadership and directors across the lab. Another really proud moment. I'll be honest though, I was super nervous to go in front of that group, and I practiced my talk until I was tongue-tied. So in 2013, DOE's Office of Science announced the winners of the Life at the Frontiers of Energy video contest, and the NCGC won for its entry on Carbon at Underland. And this was really cool little cartoon. Some of you may know, but the Office of Science noted that this was a creative, inspiring, and educational nature of the submission, and that they had received rave reviews from the Office of Science leadership. There were several researchers and communication folks who participated with me in the development of this video. This was super fun and had such an amazing outcome, and it's still useful today in educating the novice all the way down to grade school kids. After the success I achieved with the introduction of the research administration team, along with the success I achieved with the EFRC and the video, I found myself at another pivotal moment in my career, as it was the launching pad for my role as a strategic leader and key contributor to the operations of ESD. And it paved the path for me to advance my career to the program manager classification, where I grew from a PM2 to a PM4 over the next 5 years. While recognition was as a result of my hard work, I must also acknowledge that many mentors and role models I had along the way who supported my growth and encouraged me to reach outside the boundaries of my position description. One of those individuals was Don DePaulo, who was the ESD director from 2007 to 2013. Many of you likely know Don, and I had the good fortune and honor to work under his leadership and direction. He really provided me with a platform to share my ideas and strategies, and supported my efforts to implement them when at times they were unproven and uncharted territory. From 2013 to 2016, I continued in my role as research administration lead under the leadership of Dr. Susan Hubbard. In 2015, ESD became the Earth and Environmental Sciences area, with Susan serving as its ALD. And shortly thereafter, I was selected to serve as the EESA Operations Manager, which has now evolved into the position that I hold today, which is the Deputy of Operations. In my role as the operations lead for EESA, I quickly engaged my team in a SWOT analysis, which is a strengths, weaknesses, operations, and threats analysis, to really understand where we could quickly take advantage of our strengths and opportunities, while understanding how to mitigate the challenges and weaknesses that availed themselves during this exercise. This was especially important as we had been capturing so many asks from our scientific community, and they wanted a process for addressing those needs. I wanted a process to help address those needs. So after I collected the information from the SWOT, I distilled this information into buckets, and we came together as a team for a full day retreat, which is this picture shown here, where we really dug into the rich input that we had acquired, the results of which led to the launch of POPs, which are Progressive Operation Projects that I coined, which was the path that helped us prioritize asks from our scientific community under a structured process with a format that ensured we had a diverse team devoted to each project to garner the broadest coverage and considerations. So here is pictured one of this, we broke out into like little mini working groups. So this is one of the working groups that was really digging deep into one of the concepts, and then the small little photo, little picture here is just kind of a snapshot of the cover sheet of the POPs proposal pitches. So the POPs also presented an opportunity for team members to stretch beyond their position descriptions and tap into unknown talents and that our team possessed, but we had not yet recognized or had provided opportunities to explore. In the end, we were able to distill the 8+ proposals down to 3 to ensure success. And I'm happy to report that not only were they successfully implemented, they brought the team together in ways not previously achieved. It was yet another proud moment as a leader to see the team really bond and grow and really respect one another and leverage off of one another. With that, I would like to acknowledge a team of individuals who were and continue to be instrumental in my operations success. And that is my operations team. It is said that a leader is measured by the success of her team. Well, I owe an immense amount of gratitude to my EESA operations colleagues, without whom I would never have achieved true job satisfaction and fulfillment. Thank you, EESA Ops, for your strong partnership and thoughtful insight and input. Your dedication, expertise, motivation, and most importantly, mutual respect availed an environment that fortified our team to seamlessly tackle even the toughest challenges towards the ultimate goal of supporting the research. As I always like to say, we are better together, or as Henry Ford stated, coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. I don't know what more to say about this other than what the slide says already, is that my cup truly runneth over with pride and total job satisfaction. And I personally think that's pretty cool and exciting. As I wrap up my national laboratory journey, I must acknowledge Dr. Susan Hubbard. Not only is she an outstanding scientist and an inspiring thought leader, she has played a pivotal role in serving as an exceptional role model throughout my EESA career. Through her powerful and influential leadership and support, I flourished and reached new heights as a strategic thought leader, which contributed heavily to my successful career advancement, as well as the honor of being one of the 2018 women at the lab. And there I am with Susan, recognizing me at the ceremony, and then to the right is myself with my 2 other EESA colleagues and Susan, who received the Women at the Lab awards also in 2018. So I would like to conclude on the note that in my tenure with Berkeley Lab, I've worked really hard to be the best person I could be and to embrace and project positive energy. However, admittedly, at times I missed the mark, which required that I personally take a good look in the mirror and then pivot and adjust to better serve my community and my team. And while I would like to say supervising and leading comes naturally, it is a skill set that is learned over time and is best served with a good dose of strong mentors and role models. And for all of us, we are really fortunate to be working at Berkeley Lab, where there is such an abundance of very smart people who welcome the opportunity to share their experiences and develop anyone who has the passion and desire to grow. This is especially enhanced by the strong relationship LBL holds with campus. In addition to the amazing role models and mentors I've had in my work life, I would be remiss if I did not recognize one more hero in my life who has also been my rock for the last 20 years, and that is my husband, Steve Kelly. I mentioned early on that I have a really strong work ethic, which at times spills into spending extra hours and weekends focusing on my work. Please understand that I love every minute of my job, and I wouldn't change a thing. I have such a strong passion, and to this day, I still believe I have a dream job. But honestly, this last year, I'm sure I've put him to the test of hanging in there with me with COVID. But I really appreciate that my husband stood by me and supported me during those extra crunch times. My husband actually had the good fortune of having a business coach for several years. The knowledge and experience he garnered from that time was invaluable in helping me thoughtfully navigate through the various challenges I encountered over time. I'm incredibly thankful that he is a part of my life and has helped me achieve my operations success. While I'm now in my final months at Berkeley Lab as I prepare to retire and shift my priority to my growing family, which now includes 4 grandchildren, 2 of which were just born last month, I'm ever thankful for the opportunities I was afforded under the National Laboratory umbrella and the immense joy I experienced during this fabulous 30-year journey. With that, I thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. So I'm opening up the floor to questions, please. Don't be shy.
So I see Sandy, Stephen, Yushin have hands up. Kim. So should I start with Sandy, who's what I called on first?
Lisa, thank you so much for sharing such an inspiring, journey and story with us. I'm just so proud to have, worked with you, and it's going to be hard to imagine EESA without Lisa. But I do have some questions with regards to where do you see the future of the operations, let's say in the next 5 years? Do you see any particular challenges, any growth opportunities for us?
So I do, Sandy, think that the operations team has been growing leaps and bounds. I mean, look at us already having grown to 35 in our team, including matrix personnel, which is incredible. From where we've come, and with the new programs that are coming on board, and the new bioepic coming on board, and soil sciences having such a huge opportunity, lyrics, so many great things happening. I see a lot of opportunity. I'm really excited about Orlando joining the team, which people will hear more about Orlando. He'll come in on May 24th as the new deputy of ops, and he's going to bring a whole new fresh perspective. So I think it's really exciting for the area and operations. I don't know who I called on next. I'm Yushin, you had your hand up. I don't know if you still had a question.
I just wanted to say thank you, Lisa, for all the help over the years. I actually I think it's interesting to learn so much more about you right before you're planning to retire. But I wonder, just what do you I guess, I think it's going to be really hard to find someone who can actually replace with the skill set, that kind of a experience that you have. I just wanted to, I guess you're staying until we find a replacement. And do you actually have any update on where we are with the potential transition, someone who can gradually take over? Will you have the opportunity to maybe coach or mentor someone to be really not causing such a big disruption?
Great question, Yushin. So, and a very timely question. So I'm really happy to share with everyone that, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Orlando Casiano, I hope I got it right. Okay, Will has accepted the position as our new Deputy of Operations, and he comes to us from Sandia National Laboratory, where he's been there, I want to say it's 10 years, I think, serving as a manager for a pretty large program there. Prior to that, he was a business manager at JPL for 13 years. So he comes with a really extensive experience. He's very familiar with proposals and DOE and how to run an operations team. I really enjoyed meeting him, and I'm really excited to see him come on board and bring kind of a fresh perspective. My plan is to stay engaged through the middle of August, so it'll give us a nice, long, soft stepping transition. You know, I'll just kind of gradually, you know, move away as he becomes more and more engaged in the day-to-day operations for the area. My goal is to make sure he is successful and that everyone else is successful, and this is almost seamless to everyone.
And I think there's a plan for Susan to communicate that out broadly across the area very soon. She's going to talk about it in the town hall, but I think, is that right, Lisa? There's an announcement.
Yeah, so I'll mention it in the town hall. I've already informed all my operations team that he's been, that we've identified Orlando, so that, because I know how things get out. So his offer's already been extended. He's accepted, and his start date's May 24th. So it's not a secret. But literally, this just happened.
Yeah, but remember, no one can replace you, Lisa. So.
Oh, thank you, Yushin. Thank you. Yeah, you'll get a new version, right? You'll get a fresh perspective, and you know, I'm just a phone call away. That's what I tell everybody. You know, I'm going to give everybody else my phone number. It's not going to change. I'll probably just have to start paying for it. So.
Okay, who else had their hand up? I'm sorry, I lost track of who was asking. Anybody else?
Ying Ying has her hand up.
Okay.
You're on mute, Ying Ying.
I think I just wanted to thank you, Lisa, for sharing your talents and your vision. You've always challenged me through the years. You've promoted me. You've given me a lot of opportunities to do different kinds of roles in our division now and area. So I thank you for that. I will forever be grateful, and I hope we stay in touch. Yeah, I think we will. Thanks for everything.
Well, hey,
thanks for everything.
Thank you to all of you, because you've made this such an easy job for me. I appreciate all of you so much.
I think Charu has her hand up too.
Charu.
Hey, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. It's really fun to hear about your story and how quickly you've risen. And it's really great to have you as part of Earth Sciences for such a long time. So one of the things that struck me was how you were so critical to several large efforts and initiatives that went forward. And I was wondering, from your experience, what some aspects of critical aspects of successful teams look like from your perspective. And secondly, I feel like, you know, from a scientist perspective, you know, we really appreciate all the work you've done, all of you operations teams do to support us. But sometimes I feel like maybe we drive you nuts because we're doing things in the last minute. So what are some of the things we could do to make your lives better and help, you know, whether it's a proposal or any other aspect? What are some things that you would say for us as scientists we could do for you?
As much advance notice as possible. I think that's, you know, probably true for everything, right? But it's as much advance notice as possible so that we can position ourselves to support you the best way possible, so that we're not racing to push something through really quickly that may not be as quality a product as we would hope to get out the door. But we also can appreciate that things just happen when they happen. Your first question is how I was able to kind of zone in on the right elements of individuals to bring into the team. For me, it's always been about that passion. If I could see the passion in someone's voice and their positive energy, even if they didn't necessarily come pre-programmed with skill set that we needed, because to me, I think hard skills, you can teach that. Soft skills are a little harder to kind of work around. So always try to gravitate towards the really positive individual who's just really eager to make a difference. And so I think we've been successful that way for the most part, I think.
Thank you.
Lisa, I have one question myself. And first of all, I want to say how much I am thrilled to have worked with you all this time. It's really been by far my favorite job at the lab. I've moved around a little bit, and it's mostly because of you and working with you and the operations staff. This whole area is pretty fantastic, but you will be sorely missed. And I think I'm echoing everything that everybody's feeling in this room. But I wanted to make a comment. I loved your presentation, and you talked about your disappointment that you didn't go to college, which I understand. And that was a great experience for those, I'm sure, for most people who went to college. But I see that you came so far, and you may not have been where you are today if you'd gone to college. It might have, maybe you'd had some other success. But looking back on that, is there something else that, aside from college, because it doesn't look like it's hurt you much, is there something else that you wish you could have done or had done, or even thought about something differently? Looking back on it, like, I wish I didn't worry about that, or I wish I had done that, or something like that?
Actually, Tracy, no, because I think all the choices I've made, whether good or bad, have helped me get where I'm at. And so, I could look back even to this point. I guess I could say back then that I regretted not going to college, but maybe if I had gone to college, I wouldn't have, got married when I did. I wouldn't have had 2 children that I have. And so, my whole life would be a completely different story today. And I wouldn't give up any of that for anything, because I love my family, and they're just, they're everything to me. But I don't know. I think the bumps in the roads are it's kind of what you have to go through sometimes to get where you are. Maybe I, there's times you sit back and go, oh, maybe if I hadn't done that, I'd still be married, or, but then you can't look back, because that changes everything. So for me, no, not so much.
And I think that's such an important message for people who are earlier in their career, because it's this fear of making the wrong decision, and sometimes that can be paralyzing. And I think that Jens, you brought up the same thing in your talk, is just, you have to kind of go with a decision and just stick to it, because there's a reason why you're making that decision. Things happen. I do really believe that things happen for a reason. And so we're really happy that you decided not to go to college.
The truth be told, I'm now looking at doing that during my retirement. So just because I have that desire to get a darn degree.
Yeah, right. That's great. Okay, are there any other questions? I'm just looking to see, I don't see any hands up. Does anybody else have any last minute comments or questions, or? No? Okay. Well, I think we all like to be able to give you a nice group hug in honor of your pending retirement. But we really appreciated this career talk today. It was just really sensational to hear your life journey. So.
Thank you so much, everyone. And if there's anything that you think that I could enhance in my story because I'm actually going to deliver this again tomorrow to the WSEC, that you think would be of more interest, and maybe I need to scale back on some of it, I'm happy to adjust if you think it would make it more interesting for that group.
I think more 90s hair, would probably go well.
Yeah, I know, my 90s hair, the spiral perm that never went away. I had that thing for years. It was only one spiral perm.
We all have them. And I just wanted to mention before we close off that the next speaker in the series, which I'll announce, is Chancy Kuo, and I will be sending more information. I think she's next Wednesday or Thursday. I can't look at my calendar at the moment, but same time at noon. And so I will be putting out an announcement. I hope you can join us for that next talk. And with that, I will wish you all a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lisa.